But
You know what's
man,
interesting, though, if I can interject about hospitality that I think was such a great lesson for me? It's so transferable. So many of the things that I learned
systems.
at Bear Lakes Country Club in terms of systems with service are transferable to any product or service.
Service is a big thing.
So I went to Loggerhead, which is a sea turtle facility. Who would think you need hospitality there? You don't need hospitality there. You don't think you need hospitality there? They have 225,000 visitors per year.
Wow.
Think you need hospitality there? You think you need core values, cultural behaviors, service standards? You better believe you do. I come to the Symphony. This is a world-class arts organization, a professional symphonic orchestra. Do you need service standards here? Absolutely.
The following is a conversation with David McClymont, CEO of the Palm Beach Symphony, a friend I've come to admire throughout the years for his professional success, eloquent nature, and continued drive to challenge himself in sports. He's a father of 4 beautiful children and 1 grandchild. Dave believes in hospitality, systems, and culture, along with a strong work ethic, coupled with passion and an appetite to learn. Our conversation evoked pleasant memories of my childhood growing up in Jupiter, Florida. This is the David Maggard podcast. To support, please subscribe, like, comment, and share. Now I present to you David McClymont. So, man, I'm so happy to actually sit down with the David McClymont from, Jupiter, not only the CEO of the Palm Beach, Symphony, and we'll get to that transition. But, man, when I saw you at Brett Duff's 40th, I was blown away. No, I was blown away. Because you were always kind of like, there was me, there was a year, I had an older sister, then there was Brett. Then I'm not sure if you were right above Brett or 2 above Brett.
I think I was 1 or 2 above Brett.
1 or 2 above Brett, right? And then your brother, Monty, was in
Which
my
was your grade.
Exactly. So
right.
I played ball with Monty, first job at Publix with Monty. We bagged groceries together. We played Little League together. We played in the band together. And here was this cool older brother, you. Right? So me and you never chopped it up because you were way out of my league. You know what I mean? Like you were already playing in the top Little League, right? Your dad was coaching. And we were in the bottom one. It was like your dad coaching the top one, I think with Brett's older brother, Jason. And then there was Duff, Mr. Duff, coaching the next one.
Yep.
And then there was my dad coaching the little guys, or us, And then it went from you being this surfer guy, right? And then it was like you were off on your life. We graduated high school. We went on an art thing. And then, like, I don't know, whenever Brett's 40th was, like 20 years, some years later. So I only knew you in your adulthood, and this was all pre-social media, right? So I couldn't follow you along. I didn't know that you went to school or finance or had all these interests, right? And I'm like, whoa, what happened? Like, the surfer guy is all grown up and, like, sophisticated. Like, I was blown away. And that was, like, I think that was, like, 5 years ago or something. Like, Duff's 40th was, like, 5 years ago or something.
Right.
Or no, it has to be more than that because I'm 48. And Duff's
Probably 8 or 10 years ago.
10 years. Yeah, it was probably 10 years. Because, I think I just started grad school. I was just starting when we did that. And so, man, congratulations on all your success. And I've heard a little bit because I got to hear you talk on the Living and Loving podcast a couple of days ago, which was great. She's a fantastic interviewer, But, man, so I know where you grew up. You grew up in Jupiter. We grew up in the same town, small town. And when we grew up there, it was like, rednecks and surfers.
That's it.
You know what I mean?
I tell everybody that. A lot of people can't believe that the Jupiter today is what it was back in the day, that it was just redneck fishermen and surfers.
A lot of ego.
Yep.
Right? Machismo.
Yep.
A lot of that. And so tell me, like, all right, growing up, I knew your dad. I knew your mom. I knew your brother well. I knew where you grew up. I didn't play ball with you. Saw you play ball at the end of it, right? I think you were 12, 13.
Yep.
And then you transfer into surfing. So if you were 12, 13, I must have been like 8, 9 or something like that. Not to give away ages or anything, yeah. But so then you started surfing, right? I mean, and everyone in Jupiter had a boat, loved the beach, water people, right? But who brought you to the beach, or who introduced that first board to you?
Mm-hmm. So I get asked that a lot. And first of all, thank you for allowing me to be on your show.
My pleasure.
This is pretty exciting, and congratulations to you because I've followed your journey too.
Thank you.
And you're on a great trajectory. You may remember my cousin William Kimball.
Yeah.
So it was William and
I didn't know he was your cousin.
He was my cousin. Is my cousin.
I always knew him as your best friend.
No, he's my cousin. So
And
his
he
mom
was
and my mom
crazy.
are sisters.
But now he's also
And
like
he's very
grown up and
yes.
sophisticated too. I mean, I've watched.
He sure
I mean,
is.
you two are like, it's crazy.
We're an
but sorry.
anomaly.
Yeah.
So he and I were introduced to it. We went boogie boarding when we were about 12 years old on Jupiter Island and sort of got the bug. And then there was a guy by the name of Greg Carpenter. I don't know if you remember Greg Carpenter, but Greg Carpenter's parents owned the Jupiter Seafood.
Oh, okay.
What did they call that? The,
Drove by it the other day. I was.
Yeah, right there on the corner.
Yeah, it's like a Pelican.
Yeah, it was the shipwrecks.
Something.
So they owned that. Jupiter Crab Company was the name of it. He had a Lower East Side surfboard, which he had purchased from Resin Craft. I don't know if you remember Resin Craft right there on Dixie.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was selling it. And I went to my dad at about 12 or 13.
Lower East Side. Wow.
And I said to my dad, there's a surfboard that I want to buy. It's $280. Will you give me the money?
That was expensive back
That was
then.
super expensive. And he laughed at me and he said, are you crazy? And I said, no, I'm not crazy. He said, here's the deal. I'll let you work in my shop. As you may recall, my dad had Dave's Truck and Auto. He had the auto repair business there in Jupiter. He said, I'll let you work in the garage all summer long. You work here all summer long, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. You'll earn the $280 to get the surfboard. And that was what happened. I worked the summer with him at his auto garage, busted my tail. And I think that was my first introduction as to how important it was to work hard and what the fruits of the labor would be in terms of working hard, that you truly do have payoff at the end of the day for something that you have. I also think it was really a good lesson for me in terms of goals, right? So if there's something that you want in life and it's something that you aspire towards, you and I were talking off camera about triathlons and setting goals with triathlons and Ironmans and all those different races. It's really exciting to be able to go on that journey and then at the end of that journey have the fruits of those labors. So for me, it was a great taste. And then William and I got heavily into it. And unfortunately, I transitioned away from baseball, which I think at the time my dad wasn't too pleased about, because I was able to play at a decent level. I don't know that I ever would have gone anywhere. But
What was your position?
I played second and I played left field.
Okay.
And then we got into it, and the next thing I knew, almost like you and I were talking about with triathlons, I started competing. I competed in my first surf competition when I was 14 in Vero Beach. I ended up winning, surprisingly. And the rest was history. And then I just pursued it very aggressively for the next 6 or 8 years.
Do you remember the weekend? Sorry to cut you off.
No.
It just came into my head. Do you remember the weekend that Slater surfed the jetty?
Of course.
Remember that, right?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, I don't know how many more there were, but I remember that.
Yeah.
Like that day or that Saturday and Sunday. I don't remember. Like, wow, though. I mean, those were some good. So where were yours? I mean, when I was little, I mean, the inlet, corners, or the Civic Center, or the Hilton, always, or you could paddle across to Northside, you know, and then Juneau. But I didn't live there when the pier, when you guys had all that stuff going on.
Well, the pier really didn't exist because it was what they call
Right.
now Peerless. It was the old pier, and a lot of people really didn't surf there. So as you said, it was the Hilton, which is now the Jupiter Beach Resort. That was sort of a big spot.
Yeah.
And then Civic was the spot, if you remember. That was
Remember
where
all
all
the
of
girls
us
used to line
exactly.
up and stuff. That's awesome.
That was the,
What a
the
childhood,
place
right?
where Corners and Civic
Yeah.
in between that whole stretch there.
Yeah, yeah.
It was
We kind
incredible.
of moved around, right?
It sure did.
Yeah.
Depending on the generation, it was almost like they moved.
Exactly.
One grade would go to Civic Center, and the next
Yeah.
grade would go to Corners.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, I've been able to take my son to Jupiter and everything. I don't think you surfed in it like once, but yeah, man, that's
Yeah, so it was exciting, you know, and I think what happened for me, Dave, was that I learned how important it was to have a passion in life. Everybody needs to have a passion, I feel. Doesn't matter if it's growing wine or if it's triathlons or if it's music. It doesn't matter. You just have to have a passion.
But did you feel that? I mean, now you can say that now where you are because you've seen the trajectory, right? But back then, you know, you're 14,
Well, I just knew
15,
at that time
16.
that I had fallen in love with the sport.
Yeah.
And there was a steep learning curve. When I first started, I wasn't very good. I had a little bit of athleticism, but I wasn't very good. But then, obviously, the harder that I worked, then the better I got. And then it just became this
See, I've only known you as good.
Well,
I never saw the learning curve, you know?
yeah.
By the time
but
we
there
started
was, though, because William and I started when I was 12. We started on boogie boards.
Yeah.
And then we had to go through the entire trajectory of trying to learn how to stand up and then your posture and then what to do once you finally stand up.
Amazing.
And I just fell in love with it. And then I got pretty fortunate with working hard and competing and doing well in competitions that I got signed pretty early with Billabong and some other big-time sponsors. And then, you know, I just continued to try to excel to the highest level I could with the amateur surfing until I got to the age where I realized I'm never going to be able to do anything with this professionally to make a living. So now it's time to grow up and actually go out and get a real job. And that was when I transitioned into finance.
Okay, yeah, but there's a lot of stuff going on in there, though. Did you have mentors while you surfed?
Oh, absolutely.
Like was there someone that you wanted to be or you were looking up to, or someone that was
I think our local mentor right here,
anything?
who's still a mentor to me now and a great friend of mine that I still travel with, is Dr. Scott McCraniels. So Scott McCraniels was about 3 or 4 years older than me, sponsored by Natural Arts, sponsored by Billabong, sponsored by all the big companies. At one point in time, I think was in the top 30 in the world.
Wow.
Traveled all over the world, took time off, went to University of Florida.
Okay.
Had a phenomenal dad, Chummer McCraniels, who was an orthodontist locally here in West Palm. Scott's now taken over that practice and grown it exponentially. And Scott was a mentor to all of us because not only did he surf really, really well, but he was also very focused on making sure that he did as much as he possibly could academically within the community. So he was really on the right track and was such a good mentor to us to let us know it's great that you aspire to try to be something big in surfing, but don't get blindsided by the fact that you can be even bigger than something within surfing.
Great advice.
It was phenomenal advice.
When you were a senior in high school, were you thinking about college?
I wasn't.
Yeah, me neither.
No, I wasn't. To be honest with you, I wasn't.
Me
No,
neither.
I wasn't the typical student. I wasn't the typical academic where when I was in 12th grade, I was looking towards universities and everything else. No, I was so focused on surfing at the time and probably a little bit blindsided, felt that I could really do something with it bigger and better, which I probably could have, but never to the level to where you would make a living out of it. You know, I could have traveled for 3 or 4 years and been sponsored and surfed in some competitions, but not like the top 1%. I mean, I think golf is such a great example of professional sports, very much like surfing. If you think about golf, you have the top 125. That's who makes it onto the PGA Tour.
I don't know too much about golf. But
Well, on the PGA Tour, for you to make it onto the PGA Tour, you have to be within the top 125 in the world just to make it onto the tour. If you're not on the top 125, you don't get to play in those tournaments unless you're invited in some other things. So surfing is very similar.
Yeah.
It's probably the top 10 people in the world for surfing can actually make a living at it.
Incredible, right? It's highly
Yeah, so at that
competitive.
time, I was really focused on trying to leverage the surfing until I quickly realized I'm not going to make a career out of
So
this.
you
And then I had to pivot and transition and figure out what am I going to do next, trying to take that same discipline, the same goal setting, and transition that into something which I loved also, which was finance. I was always intrigued by finance.
So right before that, was there someone who said, maybe you should think about college? Was there anyone that kind of sparked an interest in you? Was there, I mean, if you were interested
There absolutely
in business, like,
there absolutely was. There was a girl by the name of Robin Trombini. I don't know if you remember Robin.
No.
Okay, so Robin was my grade, and Robin
Okay.
was that person. Robin came to me and planted the seed, and she said, hey, listen, I know you've got this surfing thing. I think it's great, but you should be educated. You know, Scott was always a big proponent of being educated. He went to the University of Florida, as I think his dad did too. So yeah, between Scott and probably Robin, they were the ones that said, listen, at a minimum, you've got to go get your AA. So I registered at Palm Beach State College, which I think was peanut butter and jelly at the time.
Yeah.
Palm Beach Junior College.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did a year there and then started working in finance when I was about 19.
Wow. And so then when you went to Palm Beach Junior College, right? PBJC, I think it was. Yeah. Palm Beach
Yeah, right, wasn't it?
I've said that in a long time. You thought finance.
I was always intrigued by finance. I think part of why I was intrigued by finance, I started my first paper route with Jupiter Courier when I was about 12, sort of under the radar, because I don't think that they would have wanted anyone to know that a 12-year-old was riding around on his bike delivering newspapers, but I did, and I made decent money with it. And then when I was 14, I worked with my dad, so I sort of got a taste as to making money and what you could do with making money in terms of setting goals. And so I was always very entrepreneurial from the entire time, whether it be teaching surf lessons or whatever I could do to try to make money. So I was intrigued by money. And then I became a student of money and started to read a lot of books on investing and Warren Buffett and how to make money in stocks with William O'Neill and all these different books.
When you were early, though, 1920?
Yeah, early. Early. I was very intrigued by it because I understood, or at least I thought, that there was a compound of money. If you understood money and you could manage money, then your money would make money.
Which is true.
Almost like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's absolutely true, right? Probably one of the best books that's ever been written, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, where it just talks about the compounding of money. Your money makes your money. So once I got a taste of that, I said, okay, why don't I try to use my brains to figure out what I can do in the world of finance? And then I had a great friend, Andrew Keurig, who you remember.
Yeah.
Andrew was working at a company called America, which is in the Esperanti building, which is a block southeast of here right now. And he said, I am going to do you a favor. He said, I think that you would be amazing in finance. I'm going to get you a job working at Global America. And I started there. When I was 19, it's sort of like a water boy.
Andrew, and there was like an older guy too, right? Wasn't there something that he looked up to? And then Malcolmson came in. He was like the younger guy, right?
Yeah,
that little crew.
Exactly.
Burback and all
Yeah,
that.
so that was really a big break for me, was Andrew giving me the opportunity to get my foot in the door, because I didn't have a bachelor's degree in finance. Here I was, this young kid trying to figure out what am I going to do next with my life, transitioning away from the competitive surfing, trying to grow up. And I have to really tip my hat to Andrew for giving me that opportunity, getting me in. And then obviously once I get in, I worked harder than anybody in the firm, or at least I felt I did. And they noticed. And I mention that because I think for anybody that's listening to your show, it is so important. And I talk about this all the time on Waves of Success, my podcast, and the guests that I have on talk about it. You can't substitute work ethic.
Yeah.
You can't substitute it, right? So you've got to work hard. It doesn't matter what you do. You have to try to outwork everybody else ethically. Doesn't mean you undermine someone. It doesn't mean you try to climb on top of them. Do it professionally, do it ethically, but just outwork everyone around you. At the same time, trying to be a team player. You also have to be a team player. It doesn't mean that you're a deserted island, but nothing substitutes working hard. So I'll give you an example. We would go in there, and the 4 guys that I worked with were brilliant, way ahead of their time, because this is 1991.
So he says, I'm going to introduce you to this, and we're going to give you a job. What was the job?
I was a grunt.
Yeah.
I was a grunt. I was a water boy. And that was the irony of all of this, is they said, okay, you're going to sort leads.
Okay.
So we would have a stack of about 500 Dun & Bradstreet leads that we purchased from Dun & Bradstreet. I would have to go through the index cards. It sounds so antiquated to say it this way now in today's technological advanced world. But we would have to sort them based off rankings, based off of sales volume and propensity.
CRM.
Yeah, it was a CRM.
Yeah.
I was the CRM. Literally.
Living.
So all day long, I would just go through the D&B leads, and I would sort them out. And then they finally realized that I was good and efficient at doing that. And they said, okay, we're going to give you a chance to actually call people and qualify them. So here I am, this 19, 20-year-old kid that's calling up. Hello, Mr. Maggard, how you doing? Let me put you on the phone with my vice president. And we would, and this is where
and did you like that point though? Did you? Because some guys don't hate picking up the phone.
I didn't like it, but I liked the challenge.
You learned.
So it's almost like us competing in triathlons. Do you like triathlons?
Yeah, I mean, it's the process.
It's bittersweet, right?
Yeah.
You do and you don't. So it was the process.
Yeah.
But those 4 guys, what was so fascinating, decided at a very early time, well before institutional trading, that they were going to divide up Europe. And I had the great opportunity to work under this guy that was a Rutgers grad, played football at Rutgers, wrestled at Rutgers, great athlete, really intelligent guy. He ended up getting Austria. So every morning at 3 in the morning, I would go in and I would try to speak broken German to these.
That was your in time, 3 a.m.?
3 a.m.
Till when did you
Well,
leave?
because of the difference in Europe.
Sure.
And I wouldn't leave until 6 o'clock.
Wow.
And then they finally realized that there was a possibility that maybe I could make it in the business. And they said, okay, we're going to put you and register for you to take the Series 7 and all the other licenses to become a registered investment advisor, which I did, working from 3 in the morning until 6 at night, going home at 6, eating dinner for about 30 minutes, and then studying for the Series 7 until about 12. And I did that for about 9 to 12 months straight.
And you were still living
which was
locally?
one of the most difficult things I've ever done. Still living at home.
Still living at home?
Yeah, still living at home.
Oh, that's good, though.
Yep.
And when you have like a schedule like that.
And then fortunately took the test for the first time, miraculously passed.
Nice.
Which I think at the time the pass rate was about 45%. So out of 100 people that took it, only 45 passed. Very, very low. But again, it goes to show you, if you put your mind to something, you work really hard, and you set a goal. My goal was that I had to pass. I knew I had to pass. Because I was in class with these other people that went to Wharton and had finance degrees at some of the best universities and institutions in the country. I was at a disadvantage. I was just this, Jupiter kid.
Yeah.
Right?
You say that, but I mean, there's some good Jupiter kids, right?
Yeah. But I think in our paradigm, in our mind, because you and I were talking about this offline. You know what I mean? You live in Miami right now. And I think what happens when you live in a particular city, good, bad, or indifferent, is you can actually create a paradigm of your environment. So here we were in this tiny little town of Jupiter, and I guess it's similar to people that grow up in Pokey and Clewiston. They talk about just getting out of the muck bowl, right? There's a paradigm.
But what a town Jupiter is now.
Oh, it's incredible.
It's beautiful.
I haven't left.
I mean,
everybody always asks me, like, why haven't you moved anywhere else? And it's heaven.
Yeah, and so many people don't know about it. Like, I've lived in New York and L.A. and Miami and Colorado, and that town is just...
Let's keep it that way. Actually, let me rephrase that. Jupiter's terrible.
Well, if you talk to the old school locals, they hate it.
I know they
Population,
do.
this,
I
that.
know.
I'm like, man, you
and I have these conversations all the
skate
time.
Parks, beaches, farms.
But you're not going to fight growth.
Beautiful.
You're not going to fight growth.
You can't fight growth.
You can't fight growth.
I
don't like it.
Yeah.
There's certain properties, I won't name which properties, that I'm not a big fan of. And I think that they were built poorly and they shouldn't be there, but
Sure,
you're not going to fight.
that happens,
You're
right?
not going to fight growth.
Yeah.
You're not.
You can't. And I'm being in commercial real estate.
You get it better
I
than
love
anybody.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
You love those buildings going up.
Yeah. So, all right, great, man. So neighborhood guys helping neighborhood guys, right, to get ahead. You did that for 9 to 12 months. Burnout? Is that what it was?
No, for the investment banking?
Yeah.
No, so I did it for about 4 years.
Oh, okay.
So I ended up working at Global America for about a year and a half,
Uh-huh.
transitioned from there, worked for a couple of really big firms, a Bear Stearns firm that was in Palm Beach Gardens, again, working with the same group of guys. Those guys decided to go out on their own and start up their own company. And at that time, I didn't see the vision in going with them for whatever reason. So I decided to go work for a big wirehouse. I worked for UBS in Fort Lauderdale. I had a $25 million account with one of the largest banks in Austria, Salzburger Sparkasse, and they ended up selling the bank. So the $25 million they said at that time is going to be transitioned over to Paris. If you want, at 22, 23, you can move to Paris and manage the account. But my daughter was just born at the time. And I just, as great as it would have been to move to Paris, I said, listen, my family is super important.
I know it.
And I'm going to stay here. So I took a year off and said, I'm going to try to figure out what I do next with my life. What's next in David McClymont's life, and that landed me at Bear Lakes. And I went there thinking, Dave, that I was only going to play golf for a year, try to figure myself out. Who am I? What am I going to do next?
15 years later.
15 years later, here
Amazing.
I am, assistant general manager.
While you were working in the financial institutes, were you still going to school? I mean, you were...
No, I stopped going to school. So when I went to school, I only went for about a year to Palm Beach State, a year of my AA. And then work just became overwhelming in terms of the hours that I had to put in to be able to hit the goals that I wanted to hit. So I wasn't able to continue.
So you never went back to school?
No, well, yes and no. I have
That's even more
I have
amazing
business
success
certifications
than-
from Michigan State, Cal Poly, Georgia State. I have a Six Sigma from Purdue.
Yeah.
So I have business certifications. But no, I never went to get my AA or my
Amazing,
bachelor's or anything else. Just
Yeah.
Ace Greenberg, who was the CEO of Bear Stearns, said he had a PSD degree.
Yeah. What does that
Poor, smart, and a deep burning desire to succeed. So
Oh,
I
you
guess
mean-
I had a PSD degree.
Wow.
But, I will say that education is critically important. And I think that's why when
Sure.
I went to Bear Lakes, I realized how important it was being in hospitality to go get these business certifications and to really study and learn. And then towards the end of my career at Bear Lakes was what motivated me to become Six Sigma certified, because in hospitality, it's process driven.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know as much as I could about process.
Had you ever worked in hospitality before?
Well, I think we all did, right? So
Well,
I
I don't know. I
was
mean-
a busboy.
Okay.
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I was a busboy at Jupiter Crab Company
Oh, okay. Okay.
and a couple of other restaurants.
And then so-
Capone's. I don't know if you remember Capone's at Cuesta.
Yeah, where was that? That was a...
In the plaza
I
where
remember, like, the
Cuesta Brewery is
sign
now.
was like rectangular or
Yes.
something like that, right? Wow. So when you went there and you just wanted to play golf, right? When did you fall in love with golf?
I'd always liked golf. I've always been an athlete. So whether it be baseball or surfing or skateboarding, I mean, we all grew up athletic, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I've always been athletic. And I think for me, again, it was the challenge of golf. And golf didn't come easy to me.
Yeah.
Still doesn't come easy to me to this
Sure.
day, where a lot of the other sports came very, very easy. I could go bowling and bowl above a 200 right now. And other sports came easy to me. That sport did not come easy. So it sort of challenged me. And I looked at the sport as if, wait a second, I'm supposed to be able to conquer this sport. And the sport's looking back at me saying, no, you're not. And that was what made me fall in love with it. And then, to be honest with you, you and I had spoke about this offline. I'm a people person, as you are. I love people. So then
Absolutely.
I got to Bear Lakes and fell in love with the business. I fell in love with the fact that we can actually strive to exceed people's expectations.
That's close to here, right? That's right.
It's west of here, yeah, about 1 mile west of here. Yeah,
So did-
phenomenal. 2 signature Jack Nicklaus golf courses, hosted the PGA Tour qualifying school 3 times, 36,000 square foot facility, phenomenal club, great membership, great leadership.
And you just stayed there, worked your way up.
Well, it was one of those
Worked
funny
hard.
things here. I go there for a year, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden, very similar to what happened in the investment banking business, I just worked really, really hard because I was raised very well. My mom and dad were very hard workers and believed in excellent work ethic, raised me well, and I worked hard. Before I knew it, I was promoted from a very low-level position to a little bit higher position in a lower level, and 15 years later, here I was assistant general manager, clubhouse manager.
Wow. Amazing. Yeah, I mean, I kind of had that same trajectory in hospitality. I mean, from busboy to, I never was a GM of a nightclub in Miami, but I was the assistant GM of running, you got about 100 people, huge staff.
Well, I think that's one of the greatest things about that industry. I'm sure you and I both know so many
They
people
promote hard work.
that are really successful right now.
Yeah.
That started off very, very low level.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a really big restaurant chain right now locally that has probably 12 restaurants locally that both the guys that started the restaurant company, one started as a busboy, the other was a dishwasher.
Yeah, I know quite a few people like that.
Yeah, and they worked their way up the ranks, and now they've got 12
That's a
or
hard
15.
business.
It's a very difficult business.
Know,
and for me, I think that was it was sort of serendipity.
Yeah.
For me, it was 2009. We were hosting the final stage PGA Tour qualifying school at Bear Lakes Country Club, where Ricky Fowler ended up getting his card to play on tour. And I'm working 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
And Charlize.
Weekends, holidays, can't see your
Charlize,
kid.
my daughter, who's now 14, was 3 at the time, 2 or 3. And one morning I went into work at 4 in the morning. I didn't get home until about 10 o'clock at night. And lo and behold, one of my friends who was the board chair at Loggerhead Marine Life Center called me up and he said, I really like what you've done at Bear Lakes. I'm really impressed with the culture that you've created, with the processes, how well the organization's doing financially. You need a quality of life change. And I'm so grateful. His name's Brian Waxman, great friend. He was the board chair at Loggerhead. He said, I would love to invite you to put your name in the hat to be considered as CEO of Loggerhead Marine Life Center.
Amazing.
It was incredible. It was serendipity, divine intervention, call it what you want. Because it was the night before that I'd gone in to say goodnight to Charlize or say goodbye to her at 4 in the morning, come home that night at 10 o'clock, and she's in the same position. Something came over me. I said, as much as I love this business and all the certifications that I have, do I want to spend the next 15 years of my life working nights, weekends, holidays, Valentine's, New Year's Eve? And it's a great business, but I'm so glad I made that decision because it's been a lot better for me as a dad. No. As I'm sure you can relate, right? You were in the business.
Yeah, and I was in hospitality school and with Marriott, and they were going to fast track me to be a GM of a hotel. And in their program, they said, we'll put you at the Miami Marriott. And it was the same time we brought him over at 4. And they said, you're going to work there for 6 months, and then we can move you anywhere. Because you go and you help out, properties that are under distress. And they bring in a team, and you take over that hotel. And that's how they fast track you because you see all the problems, right? And they had flown me to Virginia to interview, and it was in depth, and from FIU, and then I was just made that choice where I was saying, like, I can't move. I have a son here, and I'm here for him. Why would I move away? And that's when I started finding out, like, how do you become a consultant? Because hospitality, weekends, holidays, no life balance.
So
nothing,
true.
Man. Nothing, couldn't do it. So anyway, that was my little route. But hospitality's been great. We all know people, hard business. But
what's interesting though, if I can interject about hospitality that I think was such a great lesson for me, it's so transferable. So many of the things that I learned
systems
at Bear Lakes Country Club in terms of systems with service are transferable to any product or service.
Service is a big thing.
So I went to Loggerhead, which is a sea turtle facility. Who would think you need hospitality there? You don't need hospitality there. You don't think you need hospitality there? They had 225,000 visitors per year.
Wow.
Think you need hospitality there? You think you need core values, cultural behaviors, service standards? You better believe you do. I come to the symphony. This is a world-class arts organization, a professional symphonic orchestra. Do you need service standards here? Absolutely. We have patrons, right? And the patrons.
Hold on, let's not jump over the turtle thing though.
Yeah.
So your friend asked you to come over, put your name in the hat, right? CEO. You awarded the position.
Yeah, that's in December. They go through a national search. I go through a series of interviews. In April, I'm awarded the position. April 2010.
And what's the game plan? Like, what does it need? How did you implement things? And like, what was your forecast?
I think reflecting back on it now, it seems really obvious, but at the time it wasn't. I'm very analytical. So I wanted to know every single aspect of the business. I wanted to know where the
balance sheet stuff.
Yeah, I looked at the revenue and I said, okay, where's the $1.3 million that they had at that time approximately? Where's it coming from? Okay, and then once you dissect that, I call it reverse engineering budgeting.
Where does it come from?
Well, at the time, what we learned, which was very fascinating, and I have to say that we had a great board, and I had some great mentors there with Brian Waxman and Ray Graziato, because they were part of that vision too. We learned that they had a gift shop, and the gift shop was bringing in a very small amount of money. But yet you had 225,000 visitors. That's foot traffic. That's probability. So I said, why don't we go out and make an investment in Shopper Track? And the board at the time thought I was crazy because Shopper Track is the technology that Gap and all of these major Abercrombie and Fitch and Hollister all use within their facilities that tracks people's traffic, foot traffic, right? And it was a substantial investment at the time. It was about $25,000, which for a small nonprofit, that was like $250,000, right? So I said, we have to make this investment. They said, why? I said, we have a 13,000 square foot facility. We have 225,000 people coming in. Do any of us know where they're going? Nobody did. I said, we install these shopper tracks, we can immediately identify foot traffic. Then we can start to steer people into the gift shop. Furthermore, we can then look at conversion. Because then if you have 25,000 people that go into the gift shop on any particular day and you have 100 transactions, what's going on? Is it bad merchandising? Is it bad service? What is it? Where's your conversion? We got very analytical and we scaled the gift shop. And this gift shop went from doing, I don't know if it was a couple 100,000 to well over $1 million.
Wow.
So we took the organization from 1.3 million per year. I think when I left it was close to 3 million. And now I think they're like 7 or 10 billion.
All
went
into
into a capital
from the gift shop. That was the revenue stream?
No, they donations.
Okay.
So there were a couple of special events
It's
that
a
they did.
nonprofit or
Nonprofit.
Okay.
Yep, nonprofit.
And that was your first time dealing with a nonprofit?
It sure was.
How was that learning experience?
Steep.
What's the difference? I mean, obviously,
Well,
I know
think
what the difference is, but like,
yeah, the difference I think is you're trying to sell the importance of the impact that you're making relative to your mission. So obviously their mission is research, rehabilitation, and education. They monitor about 10 miles of beach.
all on turtles.
All on turtles.
Okay.
They,
It's turtle season
at that
too.
time, were rehabilitating about 175 turtles per year, which was a lot. They were one of the top in the country. From an education standpoint, they educated about 35,000 students
Who set
per
this
year.
up? Just some
Eleanor Fletcher, back
She-
in 1984.
she
She was called the Turtle Lady.
the turtle lady.
She was the Turtle Lady.
She came from a lot of money or something like that, or a trust.
I don't know.
Or
I can't
rich
recall
husband.
her background in terms of financially, but you know, growing up as kids surfing on those beaches, we would see her all the time.
Okay.
And she just set up a kiddie pool and would
Oh,
start
wow.
taking care of the turtles.
Oh, amazing.
And then fast forward all those years later, they're one of the top facilities in the world now for sea turtle research.
Wow. So our beaches have to be one of the best beaches for sea turtles.
Second, it used to be, I don't know if it still is, second most densely populated beach in the world for sea turtles.
Amazing.
In the world.
Yeah, I was just there.
Right there, Juno Beach.
Yeah, I was just there for the 30-year anniversary for 92, and we took a walk down. We were staying at the Hilton, and
Yep.
we took a walk down the beach, and here was a little turtle trying to get his way thing, and then we helped him out to the water. Right? Yeah, it's going on right now. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then you, so she started with the kiddie pool, and you expanded it to what?
Well, when I started there, they had already gone through the renovation, which
Okay.
was led by Ray Graziato. I think he was the chair at the time. It was instrumental in the renovation. They went from literally this single-wide mobile home, if you will, to little pools to the state-of-the-art facility they had at that time.
Oh,
And then we realized that there was an opportunity for us to get 1.5 acres of land. That was where the picnic pavilions were. We went to the county, worked for about 1.5 years to acquire that 1.5 acres of land, and then went into a capital campaign, a visioning session to raise the money to have the facility that they have now, which is state-of-the-art. Sea turtle hospital, x-ray machine, everything you would ever need to help cure sea turtles.
Amazing.
Yeah, very
Right?
exciting.
Wow.
It was incredible.
Was that your first time raising capital?
Yeah, I get asked that question a lot, and I think for me, I realized when I was at Bear Lakes, it was 2007, and my mom passed away in 2007 from lung
Okay.
cancer, and at the time I was volunteering for Susan G. Komen and American Cancer Society, and I had an employee at the time who was from the Philippines, one of the hardest workers I've ever seen, and he wasn't working at the level he normally would, so I called him into my office, and I said, Roger, what's going on? Is everything okay? He burst out crying. He said, no, sir, it's not. He said, I have a 12-year-old stepson that has stage 4 cancer. If we don't get him out to MD Anderson in Texas, he's going to die. So within 2 weeks, I assembled a committee. I went to the TV stations. I went to Mr. Nicholas, a whole bunch of other people. And literally within 2 weeks, we raised $55,000 to send him to MD
beautiful,
Anderson
man.
to get the experimental drugs that he needed. I tell that story because I think for me, reflecting back on it, that was when I realized that I was I don't want to say natural born,
You
but I
executed.
was a skilled fundraiser.
You had a mission, you put it together,
I
you
believe in the
executed.
mission, exactly.
Yeah.
If I'm passionate about the mission,
You were your own Kickstarter.
Yep.
You know, and for
Yeah.
a great cause.
yeah, and for a great cause.
Sorry to hear that about your mom.
Yeah.
I loved your mom. She was
Yeah,
so
that's
sweet.
okay.
My mother passed away with cancer as well.
She did.
Yeah, my mother passed. My father's passed.
When?
My mother passed, let's say like 5 years ago.
Wow. Sorry to hear
Yeah,
that.
and my father passed same year that he was born, 2004.
Wow.
Yeah, he got to see Taylor once, so I got a picture.
Yep.
And yeah, they both went away. Is your father still around?
He is.
or-
He's still
right?
here. Lives
So
up in
I
Stewart.
was
Still
gonna ask-
fishes.
In Stewart? Is that where he
In
lives?
Stewart.
Nice.
He sure
I'm
is.
sure he fishes, man.
Yeah.
That guy is, he's a fisherman. How does he feel? How does he, like when he looks at you, like he's proud, right?
He's very proud.
Yeah? You're like, Dad, I didn't want to play baseball anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It worked
Yeah,
out.
I think he realized it worked out.
Yeah, that's great, right? I miss that.
Well, you know how it is as a parent. You and
Yeah.
I can both relate on this. All we ever want for our children is for them to be hardworking, happy,
Yes.
good citizens of
Yeah.
the world. That's it. It's pretty basic.
Yeah.
Just be happy, be hardworking, and be good citizens. And I think I've lived up to that.
Yeah, but that's the cool thing is that you get to reflect upon your dad. Like my parents are gone, so I don't get to reflect
True.
like,
Yeah, look where I am.
everything worked out.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, don't worry anymore. Everything worked out, you know? And it's completely true what you say about the kids. You just want them, give them happiness, give them good work ethics, and, give them everything, I guess, that we weren't given.
Very, very true.
So that's great, man. So the marine biology, you went into that being analytical and turned it around. Not turned it around, I guess it was already on a good trajectory. Or why were they looking for a CEO?
Well, I think the other thing that we did too, which I was a student of going back to Bear Lakes, was culture, right? So from being in the hospitality world that how important culture is. I forget what the saying is. They say culture eats strategy for breakfast or something. And it's really, really true. I mean, culture is critical. So one of the things that was an area of opportunity at Loggerhead Marine Life Center was to instill culture. What did culture mean? It meant that we had standards. We had service standards. We had the 5-10 rule. When somebody comes in, you make eye contact with them within 10 feet. You say hello at 5 feet. Simple things that they do in hospitality. You go to any Marriott or any St. Regis or any great property, you see those things in action.
Yeah.
So we instilled culture. We made sure that people were accountable. We set goals. We put together what I like to call the one-page strategic plan. And I talk about this a lot. I had a great mentor that was there at the time that worked in Fortune 100 for 30 plus years, Harvard grad, and he had sort of created this one-page strategic plan. It's a mission, vision, core values, cultural behaviors, and strategies. And it sounds so basic, but if you put those 5 components together within any institution, you have a really high probability of being successful. And those are the 5 drivers. So we put those 5 drivers together at LMC, Loggerhead Marine Life Center. When I came to the Symphony, we instilled those same things here at the Symphony so that everybody's playing off the same sheet of music. Because there has to be orchestration, pun intended, for our business within any business. Doesn't matter if it's commercial real estate appraisals, right? Everyone's got to be playing off the same sheet of music, rowing in the same synchronicity.
People throw around that word culture, though. So I always wonder, and I always want to hear people's definition of culture. I think people use it as a marketing
They do. I agree with you. I agree with that. I don't think that everybody lives up to it. I think I think they put it up on the placard.
When you explain it as like hospitality and systems and like that, then I can follow. But when people just try to throw it out there, like culture, and I always say like, what's the culture? How do you establish it?
Well, I think culture starts with leading by example and treating people the way they want to be treated, right? Man. So you drive it. I drive it. I'm CEO of the Palm Beach Symphony. I have to treat my team the way that I would want to be treated.
Let me tell you.
So when I was at Bear Lakes.
Hold on. Let me give you a compliment. You are so nice. Like, I don't know if people know this, man. You're like a sweet guy. Like, I read your emails, and I'm like, man, I've got to step up my game. Like, I just see your responses, like, immediate. I mean, seriously, I'm completely like, and I don't want to fanboy too much, but man, you are definitely an inspiration. I mean, I hope that other people like watch you. I'm sure your brother does and stuff like that. Just the way you carry yourself and, the topics that motivate you and inspire you, family, business, hospitality, being nice, taking care of people, great values, man. Great values. So I just want to say
I appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
When I was at Bear Lakes, I went to a Stephen Covey certification, and I went to a Dale Carnegie certification, and both of those changed my life.
Did they?
Yeah. 2 of the greatest books that's ever been written. And because it teaches you the fundamentals of relationships, right? And whether those be personal or professional, and definitely within the professional world, you have team members that work with you. And not everyone's going to be the same. Not everyone's from the same background, same upbringing, same ethnicity, same religion, but somehow very much like sports, right? Think about sports. When we grew up playing sports, you're on a team, a baseball team, you got 9 other players that are on the field with you. You don't care what their background is. You'll have to be striving towards that same goal and try to get along to the best of your ability. I'm a big believer in it. I appreciate you saying that because it's something that I hold myself very high accountability to make sure that I'm creating a culture to where it's productive and it's conducive and you're being friendly and inviting and open-minded.
Nice. No, it's nice. It's great to be on the other side of that, right?
I also talk about, to that point, I talk about this all the time, but it's worth mentioning
inverted
again.
Triangle.
Yeah, I think it's so important because I think so many times in business, and I do think that society has forced businesses to adopt this now, and it wasn't always the case. It used to be that me as the CEO, I'm on top. I drive all the decisions. You do what I say. I don't want to hear anything else. It's my decision. You go do it, Dave. how productive is that?
Mm.
What if you have an unbelievable idea? What if I invert the triangle and I let you tell me some of the things you think make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we're going to renovate this building.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think we should move it 5 feet to the left. Why? And you tell me why. Because you figured out something within the plot as to why we should move it 5 feet.
But before you can execute that, it's kind of like what you say is like, who'd you put on your bus, right?
100%. 100%.
So you're not going to do the inverted triangle
No.
before you understand who's your
100%.
team.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And
You've got to surround yourself with people better than you.
Yeah.
And then let them tell you what to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was sort of Steve Jobs' model. If you read the Steve Jobs biography, he talks about how he built Apple was the same thing. He looked at where his areas of opportunity were, his weaknesses, and he just filled the holes.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to surround yourself with really good people. That's super important. I'm glad you brought that up. That's one of the most important things. And I talk about it all the time. Good to great, get the right people on the bus. It is so true. Because if I look back at Bear Lakes, I look back at Loggerhead, and I look now at the Symphony, the only reason that we have had the success that we have had is because of the board that we had, our supporters, our team, the musicians that we have now. We wouldn't be anything if it wasn't for those people.
How long were you at Loggerhead?
Almost 3 years.
And then the same opportunity came here, put your name in the...
Yeah, I guess the board chair, Mr. McNulty, had seen what we were accomplishing at Loggerhead and reached out to me a couple of times. And then the opportunity presented itself where they were looking for a new CEO. And the same thing, similar to Loggerhead, put my name in the hat, went through the interview process, took about 3 months.
And they were looking for culture as well?
Well, it was interesting. They were looking for a business person. And I really have to tip my hat and show deep gratitude to our late board president, Dale McNulty, because he had a vision. And his vision was he did the contrarian. If you think about investing in the market or real estate or anything, there are those people that actually march down paths that don't seem logical. Why is that person going down that path?
Right.
They're building a building on that corner? That makes zero sense.
Way in front of the trend.
Wynwood.
Yeah.
Right? 10 years ago, what was Wynwood?
Yeah.
It was terrible. Approximately 10 years ago?
Yeah, an old
12?
Industrial place. Yeah. I mean, the
it's
land
like the hottest place now.
swap, and
Right.
now they're building.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he had a vision that he wanted to get a business person that would come in and look at it through a business lens. And fortunately, it's worked out pretty well.
That's amazing. Was it a hard transition? Were you ready to leave? I mean, Loggerhead by the beach, you probably surfed right there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you live local? Do you live in Jupiter? Or
I live in Jupiter. I live in Abacoa.
So easy transport, you know.
Oh, it was comfortable. It was great. I trained for the Ironman.
Yeah.
Left my bike in my office, swam in the ocean right there, ran up and down A1A.
Were you excited to come back to like the Palm Beach kind of, you know, because growing up in Jupiter, I was telling him, Taylor, when we were driving here, is I was like, you know, we all grew up in Jupiter, but it was so close to Palm Beach. Like everyone wanted to be, you know, you felt the energy, right? You felt the people with the money and the big houses and nice cars and good jobs and, you know, finance people or people, you know, trend movers and stuff like that, right? Did you feel that? I mean, you worked at Bear Lakes. And then you left and went to a beautiful Jupiter town, right? Which is a whole other mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to transition back over here to feel that energy? Or I mean, was that something, or am I just way off?
No, that's a good question, but it wasn't a motivator. I think for me, what was so motivating was how challenging the situation was.
Oh,
They were in a really tough position.
All right.
They were on the verge of almost collapse.
Mm-hmm.
So when I arrived, they had celebrated their 40th anniversary. The year prior, they lost $175,000 on a $700,000 budget. $1 million was drawn down to about $100,000. And when we did forward cash flow projections, they had about a year of survival. So fortunately, with Mr. McNulty, he put together an incredible board, great committees, and we were able to work very closely together to get it to the level we are now. But the first 2 years that I was there, I thought to myself, what have I done? It was so challenging. They had no budget. And it wasn't really anyone's fault. It was sort of normal at that time with the nonprofit world, was that nonprofits were run like nonprofits. It wasn't run like a professional business institution. Now they're starting to become
when you think it would be something like this, like the Palm Beach Symphony, right?
Exactly.
You think like...
Yeah, but it was very grassroots, very cultural, great organization. Don't get me wrong, phenomenal. Just needed someone to come in and help get them to the next level. And that's what the board and I were able to do. But yeah, the first couple of years were really
24
difficult.
months. Struggle, huh? Hard times.
Really difficult.
Yeah. You ever think about stopping, quitting?
Oh, I absolutely
away?
did. Oh, are you kidding?
Yeah.
Multiple times. Multiple times.
What made you get up every day, come back in?
I think it's like you and I doing triathlons.
Discipline.
When you did the races, did you think about quitting?
Man, I think it's the people around you, right?
Yeah.
The group is what pulled you.
100%.
You know,
Because I know that when I've done triathlons, there's been many of times that I've said I just can't do it anymore.
yeah.
But then what keeps you going? I think for me, it was not quitting.
Mm-hmm.
Just not quitting.
Mm-hmm.
Because then who would win if I quit?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah. I saw you when you did the last, I think it was your last triathlon, where you actually had the publicity and you raised money, right?
We did.
What was
Yeah,
that
we called it Miles for Music. So I'm sort of a marketing person, and I always like to come up with names. We titled our golf tournament "Swings for Strings." I like playing words. So yeah, we raised about $25,000.
Nice.
So I basically created sponsorships and did the NASCAR thing where people could put their logos on my jersey. And
I don't know how you did that race, man. I seen you had like something wrong with your leg or something like that, and then you're like, oh yeah, I just jumped on, and then you're like, oh, that race is like in a month. And I was like,
well, it
what's this
goes
guy
back to what you
doing?
said. Those good people around you. I had an amazing PT trainer.
Oh, did you?
Somebody introduced me to that was incredible. He'd learned that I was running wrong. He said, you have to stop running with your foot pigeon toe. That's what's throwing everything out of alignment.
Okay.
And then that.
Yeah, because your social media, it just seemed like, oh yeah, here I am struggling on the.
Oh, I didn't think I was going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had really serious calf issues. So every time I would go out on those long runs, I couldn't make it a mile.
Yeah, man, that triathlon, that world is very good for discipline and motivation,
It
inspiration,
sure is.
for sure. And you see all walks of life, right? It doesn't matter how much you're earning.
I talk about this all the time, and I'm glad you brought that up. I think one of the most fascinating things about that sport is age is irrelevant.
Yeah.
How many times?
Or size.
How many times have you been
You could be
laughed
fit, or the guys
by
like
a
this.
60 or 70-year-old person? Because
Probably every time.
Me too. Because you look at the calf.
Yeah.
And on the calf, it shows the age. So every time somebody runs by me, I look
True.
at the calf and I think,
yeah. I see
where are
what
you
you're saying.
going?
Yeah, the number.
And they're lapping me.
Mm-hmm.
It's motivating.
Yeah, man, that's a good. I mean, I had him up there. He was swimming on the middle school team, so he loved swimming. The running he didn't like.
That's my least favorite of the three disciplines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Biking's fun.
I love
Right?
biking.
Biking's fun. Dangerous down in Miami.
Super dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, it's dangerous anywhere, but down there, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Where do you guys go? Key Biscayne?
Yeah, 'cause we live
The
right
Causeway?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can run to the Causeway. I mean,
That's the Rickenbacker?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, someone was just killed there recently.
Yep.
And and the roads aren't good either. The roads are torn up and stuff like that. I mean, we used to drive up here to Jupiter and then do that whole route up to Fort Pierce.
Hopes, yeah.
Yeah, all that area. That's
Right.
pretty cool. So wow, you come over here and you change the symphony. I mean, were you taken by the culture, like the other culture, right? The culture of the music and the people that are coming here. And I mean, not everyone is coming to watch, the symphony. Or what is the demographic that come to support it?
Well, at the time when I started, and I share this story all the time because I'm very statistical, there's 1.5 million people that live in Palm Beach County.
Okay.
So I use that as our target market. Right, that's utopia. Obviously, not everybody's going to want to come to a classical music concert, but that's the demographic, 1.5 million people. After being in business for 40 years, they only had 2,000 people in their constituent database, and the average age was 78 years old. So the first thing that we had to do, we had two things to do. One was increase critical mass. We had to get more than 2,000 of the 1.5 million people. And then secondly, we had to try to bring down that age demographic. So now we have 50,000 people in our constituent database with an average age of 54. So that was sort of a big victory for us. Part of how we did that was we introduced really incredible educational programs, free children's concerts, donated instruments, master classes, coaching sessions, side-by-sides with local schools, most of which were Title I schools. So that started to create awareness and visibility within the younger demographic. About 2 years in, we realized that we weren't touching anyone 18 to, say, 60. So what were we doing? Nothing. And we created a young friends group. We went to about 15 people locally in the community that were sort of leaders and influencers and said, would you serve on our founding committee? Fortunately, the 15 of them said yes. And when they said yes, then we started to reach the 18 to, say, 50 demographic, which wasn't being reached before. And those two driving forces, I think, Dave, is what brought us down from the average age of 78 to about 54.
Wow. It's a big difference.
But you can see how analytics and data.
Yeah, I love it.
And
I love
what
that.
I like.
I live my life.
What I like
that.
saying is measuring what matters. I don't know if you
Yeah.
read John Doerr's book, Measure What Matters. I'll send it to you. A phenomenal book. I've always been told if you can't measure it, it's not worth doing. You've got to be really analytical and have dashboards and understand what's moving the dial, whether it's commercial real estate appraisal business. I could go into your business and within probably a couple months create some dashboards that would, as you could come into my business and create dashboards and say, hey, what's really moving the dial? Because then it goes back to the 168 model, which is there's only 168 hours in a week. Where are we going to focus our time to make sure that it's best utilized to move the dial? And you're not chasing rabbits down a dark alley.
I use that in my personal life.
Totally. You have to.
Like you only got so much time, and you know, I was saying that today, like assistants, virtual assistants, and capped here, and like, how do you level up? And okay, so how do you level up? What's your next? I mean, I'm not gonna say like what's your next job or anything like that, but what you've got to be satisfied. You've had great success in 3 different places right there, right? And how long have you been at Palm Beach Symphony now?
8 years.
8 years. So you went 15, 3, 8. Actually, you went 4, right? In the banking, you were at 4. So.
Exactly.
And is this somewhere you would call home forever? Is that an option, or is there? You never want
to say forever, but I can tell you that there's still a lot of work to do here. So I think there's a lot of room on the runway for the plane, and I will definitely be here for the next 5 years, if not longer, because there is so much more work to do. You know, I think that's one of the things in business, and I'm sure that you see this in your business, right? So as soon as you start hitting some of those marks, it makes you realize that you can lever up. And what if you were to actually hit the next mark and the next mark? So we have so much more work to do. It's exciting that we've gotten to where we are now, but there's a lot more we can do.
Yeah, it becomes more clear, right?
A lot more clear. I agree with that. It sure does.
You know,
where in the beginning, I think it's a little bit foggy.
Yeah. Because you had some great mentors. I was kind of out there running wild and taking what I could from different people. I think it's better. I mean, I don't know. When you stay local, you have those people around you who knew your character. When you move around a lot, people don't know your character.
That's true.
Right? So they have to
get to know you.
Yeah, to get to know you, or you have to seek out certain people, right? But also you get to see a lot of different places, and you know, I think I loved living in different places and seeing the diversity of how businesses work, how different circles work. Because even when I lived in Los Angeles, I mean, the grind of being an actor and the business, because it's show business, right? So there's one thing of just showing up and taking an audition, but then there's also how do you get the audition? Like we started an underground management company and everything. Yeah, it was really cool. But yeah, what's the next level? So what about? You've done triathlons, surfing, you like to cook. Anything else you want to tackle?
I play tennis. I play golf.
Yeah,
I still wakeboard. I still skateboard a little bit. Not like I used to skateboard. You have to be careful.
You get hurt easy on skateboard.
Exactly.
Man.
You fall now. It's a little different. You don't bounce.
So,
but I just like to stay active.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't matter what.
El Salvador. How was that?
It was great. Really good. I went with Monty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really good.
Yeah, we saw the
pictures.
It
was nice. That was our first time on a trip, obviously, because of COVID in quite a while. So it was really nice. Very, very good conditions, big waves. It was fun.
How is that to spend time with your younger brother? I mean, that must be...
Oh, it's great.
You guys have a great relationship?
We have a good relationship.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah. So, 4 kids, 1 grandchild?
Yes.
Tell me about it.
So
Tell me about the grandchild
Chelsea's
first.
29. She just had a little girl, Navy James, who just turned 1, who's beautiful.
Wow, congratulations.
Yep. Working for a local interior design company here, one of the top interior design companies. Sarah McCann, Hive, doing phenomenal.
Really?
Very, very, very proud of her.
Wow.
Yeah, out of college, she worked in retail. She worked for Chanel and Gucci and loved the hospitality business, but really wanted to be, luxury brands. But I think always had an aspiration to be an interior designer, and now she's landed, and she's really, really happy.
Now she's running with it.
She is running with it.
She gave you your first grandchild.
She did.
That's awesome.
And then Charlize is 14. Charlize is the dancer.
Okay.
She's carrying the torch for Chelsea. Chelsea was a big dancer. So Mason's my son. He's 11.
When you say dancing, like ballet dancing?
She does ballet, tap, jazz. She cheers. Goes to King's Academy locally. My son Mason, who's 11, is sort of the athlete. He just signed up for football.
I seen you had him surfing a lot.
He's a surfer. Yeah, he surfs and skateboards. He's very athletic. He reminds me of me. He just loves playing basketball, anything that's athletic, whether it be running. I got him a triathlon bike.
Oh, nice.
So he rides with me occasionally.
Yeah.
And
took him out 40 miles.
Did you really?
Yeah.
On a bike?
Yeah. I bought him his own.
Yeah, that's far.
His own road bike, real nice. And dumb dad left it on the top of the roof of the car. Went into the condo.
Someone took it?
I did that. I was that guy. Crunch, just carbon, just.
Oh no!
Yeah, there goes that bike. Yeah. Now we got electric
bikes.
Live and learn. So Mason, I'm sorry, his name's Mason, right?
Mason, he's 11.
So you just took Mason to New York too, right?
I did.
That's cool, man.
I did. So I have this thing where growing up, I didn't have the opportunities that my kids have now with my family. to experience different cities and different things. So I came up with this idea. I don't know why I came up with it. I guess because it's such a great city.
Yeah.
That when my children turn double digits, that I'll take them to New York City. So I've continued the tradition.
So just come with dad?
You just come with dad. You turn 10, you go to New York City, and you soak up everything it has. You learn. Obviously, I create it to be an educational trip, and we study the Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island and all the other great things that are up there. So I just took him up there. Nice. COVID delayed it. He's 11. He's almost 12, so COVID delayed it. But nonetheless, we still got up there. He loved it, and I was proud of him. You know, I think there's so many lessons for us as parents to teach our children, some of which we don't even realize. One of them for me was for him to know his navigational awareness. So I would say to him, where are we right now? And I think I realized how successful it was for him to learn the city when we were having dinner on 61st Street and I think 5th. And we were staying on 59th, and he said, Dad, I'm going to walk home. I said, oh, are you? You're going to walk home in New York City? I said, tell me how you're going to get there. He said, well, I'm going to go west, get to 5th, then I'm going to head up to 59th, turn right, go up to 7th, and I'll be home. And I thought, this is great.
Nice memory.
Yeah. So, you know, it's just trying to give those experiences to our kids, as I know you do, too.
Yeah, he's been, you know, he went to Chile, and he spent time in Aruba.
Yeah, that's amazing.
We took him to El Salvador.
Did you?
Multiple times.
Where'd you go to El Salvador?
So with my ex, there was an FIU friend of theirs who's from El Salvador, right? Dialed in surfer, surfs all over the place, Malibu and all kinds of places, right? So we went to some typical places at first. I think he showed us Roca. Isn't that where you guys went? Roca or whatever?
Punta Roca, yeah.
Yeah, we didn't paddle out there. We went to some other places, stayed in a house, I think it was, I forget now if it was north or south of there. But then we went to Putumayo, which is like 3 hours away. And it's like, and I forget the other touristy place, but this is a place, just a Point Break, where you're staying in like, you know, like the French people own this like one like cement block shed kind of thing with hammocks and you're walking down past cows to go to this Point Break, and which was very cool, and everyone spoke Spanish, and they were calling him like El Mangro or something, or what was it? Yeah, something, I mean, magician, because he was doing like magic tricks and stuff like that. And man, what an experience. We went there 2 years in a row. We actually, my ex bought them like she fundraised as well, like a Kickstarter thing, bought money for the kids to be able to drive. Because one thing there is that elementary school you can walk to. Once they hit middle school, it's too far away, and most of the kids don't go to school. You're talking about real poverty, like just dirt, and they're sleeping in hammocks and things like that. So she raised money here, got a truck for them to be able to take them to like middle school and high school. We went out there and threw 2 surf contests. We collected a whole bunch of boards while we were here, and then brought a whole bunch of clothes and wetsuits and everything like that. And I mean, and when I tell you, it was an event. I mean, like everybody in this little, I don't even call it a town. It was just like a, I don't know, cluster of people right around this break, and these kids would be surfing in this place with like, you know, like a tri-fin with two fins on it, you know, one broken and stuff like that, and happy as can be though, happy as can be. So what an experience!
Isn't it eye-opening when you go down there?
Oh, it's
or
amazing.
Any of those countries? I come back so recharged to think how fortunate we are, and how it takes so little to be happy.
We're trying to buy land there.
Some of those areas, they don't really have much, but yet they have smiles.
Yeah. Happiness, they don't know, you know.
No.
So it's such a.
They're great lessons for us, because I think we get sometimes.
We cover up our happiness, you know, like
we do, and I think sometimes, as great as it is for you and I right now to be talking about success and moving the dial and getting to new levels, I think one of the challenges that leaders have, and I will admit that I have this too, is trying to live in the moment and be present.
Yeah.
And just look at the things around us that we're so grateful about.
Yeah.
And I'll wake up certain times and have mantras that I'll say, or positive affirmations.
Absolutely.
That I think are critically important.
Yeah.
You know, I'll say one every morning: I'm alive, I'm alert, and I feel great. And it sounds silly to say it, but think about it. I'm alive. So I started the day, I'm alive, I'm alert, I'm cognitive. And then if you put these positive thoughts into your mind that you feel great, then at least you go out into the day. But they live by those. It's so fascinating to see and so motivating.
Yeah, man.
That they're so happy.
Big smiles.
I know.
I mean, it just, and you see
Lessons
them just
for
like,
us.
That's their shore break. And then the big Point Breaks coming around the corner. You're like, oh my God, like, they don't even understand.
No.
And then the other surf spot, they would bring like a boat to this place and everything, so it'd get a little crowded, but it was fun. I forget, what's it, Putumayo, right? Yeah, very, very fun place, man. Took a while to get there, but I guess it was a very local underground kind of, you know.
Amazing.
We super enjoyed it. Yeah, traveling, surfing. I wish I was as good as you, but after I left Jupiter, there was no surfing. You know, we lived in LA and then New
Are
York.
you still surfing now?
Now,
Great.
so we.
Well, you're in the best place if you have a place
my
up
ex
there.
surfed a lot. She was a young girl and loved surfing, right? And and that was great because he was 4 and it was perfect timing for him. So he surfed his whole childhood and waves are, when you're a little kid, everything's big.
Oh, everything's head high.
Right? Yeah,
right.
I took him everywhere and even tears and salty, you know what I mean? Get out here, paddle, pushing him in everywhere and everything. And now he just loves it.
Well, the advantage you have being in Fort Pierce is they have waves almost every day.
Well,
that's where we would go.
That's why we moved
you at
there.
least have something.
That's why we moved
right?
there.
It's always knee to waist high.
Yeah.
And one of the advantages, as you know, this is sort of like the dirty secret among surfers in South Florida, is that that's about where the Bahamas don't block the easterly swell.
Exactly.
So it's just amazing.
Yeah.
You know, you go all the way up the coast, Jupiter's flat,
Yeah.
Hope Sound's flat, Stewart's flat, Jensen Beach is flat.
Yeah.
Pull up to Fort Pierce Inlet,
Yeah. There's
waist to chest high, or it's waist high.
So
I love that place.
Yeah, man.
We all grew up surfing there. I love that place.
And it's like family life up there. You got beautiful people are nice up there. Walking
very,
down the beach.
very.
Not a ton
Well,
of
it's
people
almost
on
like
the beach.
we grew up.
Yeah.
I think that the environment and the
Exactly.
culture up there is very similar to Jupiter.
Yeah.
It's just low key,
Yeah. So
laid back.
we're up there every weekend.
That's
Got the
great.
electric bikes to take the boards
Well,
to
you
the
have
beach
to let me
and
know when
everything.
you're up there, and if
Dude,
there's waves, I'll come meet you up there. Mason and I will go up there.
You guys could stay up there.
Yeah, I would love
or
that.
whatever you guys want. Absolutely. We'll make
That would be
happen
great.
for sure. So is Mason the youngest?
No, I have another one, Reese, who's 5.
Wow.
Yep.
So
I'm
how
blessed.
old were you when you had Reese?
I
'Cause
was
I'm
if you
48
do-
and we're
Yeah, I
having
was
another one
47. Oh,
right
are
there.
you? Congratulations.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're 47?
48.
48. Yeah. So I was
Yeah.
about the same. I was 47.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
How is it? Like, is it?
It's interesting. People will.
It's a weird question, right?
Well,
How is it?
Well, because here's the
But
thing.
I mean, at the age,
I
right?
think that we in life go through iterations, both
Absolutely.
professionally and
Sure.
personally. So how are you now at 47 or 48 compared to how you were at 22 or 26?
Oh, I'm the best now.
Right. You're just exactly. So I think as a parent, it's so challenging when you're younger being a parent. I think in a way it's easier,
Mm-hmm.
and in a way it's more challenging. I think for me personally, as you get older, having other children, you really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And not that you didn't appreciate it in the beginning. Of course you did.
Right.
It's just that you've gone through, you've taken a ride on the horse, if you will, around the carousel.
Mhm.
You'll love it. It's incredible.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Incredible.
We can't wait. We're looking forward.
Do you know if it's a boy or girl?
Well, no, because everything's going through the process. At
Yep.
this age, there's a process.
How
So,
far along, or when is she due?
Well, I'll tell to you off camera
yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
But we should have a baby, I would say, in 9 months. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. So-
Amazing.
and then he'll have a brother or sister.
Yeah, and he'll love that.
So it'll be cool.
Because that's the other beautiful thing, too, is
Yeah.
to see how they interact.
Yeah.
You know, everyone loves one another, and especially the little
Especially
one.
when you get older. I
Yeah,
mean, like
I
when
agree.
he's like 28.
Agreed.
And then the baby will be 8. And then, you know what I mean? And then everyone gets together and
So
everything's
true.
going to be great. You know, I look forward to it. I mean, you got to.
Well, and our age gap's probably similar. If he's 17, Chelsea's 29, and Charlize is 14, so that's a 15-year gap right there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What does she think?
Oh, loves it.
Yeah.
Loves it. And then now that she has little Navy James, then they come over, and they're sort
Is
of
she
the,
gonna
the
have
big.
more?
I think she will. Yeah, she hasn't gone out in the record and put it out on the newswire, but I think they will.
Wow. How long have you been married?
I'm not married.
Oh, you're not married?
No.
Single
No, Denise-
dad?
Yep, single dad.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
then.
Denise and I are happily separated, still get along great.
Uh-huh.
And
And
raise the kids, and everything's good.
looking to find someone else, or
Yeah, I think if the right person comes along,
Mhm.
I think what happens when you get older, you've probably gone through this.
yeah.
We want to make sure that we're being the best version of ourselves
Yeah.
before that we can go be the best partner for someone else. And I know that sounds probably eat, pray, love, or vanilla, but it's true. We've got to
Mhm.
be the best version of ourselves. I have to be the best that I can be for me, then be the best I can be for the symphony and
Mhm.
for the kids and for everyone else that's around me. But of course, yeah, I'd love to be married again if the right person comes along. Definitely.
Yeah, it takes a lot, right? I mean, it's fun to be single or fun to date, and especially if you're a people person and meet different people. And it's also fun to click with somebody,
Totally.
especially later in life.
Yep.
You know, and it's a whole other different relationship.
Well, it's funny that you say that because I think the grass is always greener, right? They always talk about that, both with jobs and relationships and everything else. So if you're married, then there's times probably when you're married that you think, wouldn't it be great if I wasn't married? I was single, and then I wouldn't have to have responsibility and all these things. But then if you're single, there's also great opportunities that you look at it and say, wow, I'd really love to be able to be with someone and travel. So it's just how you look at it. And
Yeah, I think I was always in a relationship and then not a great single guy because then I just, there's so many people out there, But I like to be with somebody
I do too.
and try to build something, and strategize and how do we get there? Or how do we do this? Or what do you want?
Well, it
You know what I
becomes
mean?
a team.
Yeah, I love it.
It really does.
I love it.
I know.
That's how we are right now, especially with the renovation of the townhouse.
Good for you.
And, trying to take it to like, what do we want to do next? So the baby, okay, check, let's do that.
Well, it's a journey, right?
Yeah, and it's beautiful, right? I feel like, and then when I just said that, it's beautiful. I think about, so my siblings, I have an older sister, younger sister, who I don't speak to, and I find it sad, and my heart goes out to, I guess, to people that are struggling and caught in that loop, and they can't figure out how to get out of that negativity loop. You speak of positivity, and you do affirmations, spirituality and things that you got to be in the present. I learned all that actually going through my last breakup and going to therapy.
Good for you.
And she turned me on to more like a spiritual therapy, and I loved it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I was.
Well, I can tell you firsthand, it is real. The whole law of attraction, it's real. Because if you put positivity into your mind and you speak positivity, believe positivity, it's not perfect. It's not everything's going to be roses, but it's going to be a lot better than speaking negativity.
And it takes work.
It takes work.
But
how many people do we know that we could talk about right now that live in that perpetual trap of negativity, right? The sort of the Debbie Downers about, oh, I got a flat tire this morning, and then I was late for work. And when I was late for work, my boss got mad at me, and then he took my shift away. And it's a loop. And you have to break that loop and break that cycle.
And then they ask you, how do you do it? How do you do so many things? How do you do it?
Yeah, because you're positive.
Because
and
I want
it's
to
not
be that
perfect.
guy.
Right. It's not perfect.
I wake up
every single
morning,
day I wake
that.
up. My days aren't perfect. I have
Yeah.
challenging days just like everybody else.
Yeah.
But how would you rather go into that battle? Would you rather go into it already defeated to begin with? Or would you go into it optimistic and enthusiastic that I'm going to conquer the world? Even if you don't. Even if you fail forward.
Yeah.
And that's a word I use too all the time is fail forward because we all fail.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you're going to trip, at least trip forward.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Then get back up and keep moving forward.
Yeah, success.
But I'm a big believer in that. So I'm glad to hear that you went through that whole spiritual awakening.
Fall and get back up, right? What's the delta in between? But yeah, man, my alarm goes off at 5 a.m. every morning. I don't want to get up.
Have you read 5 a.m. Club?
No, but
it sounds like you're already living it. You might not need to read it, but it's a very good book.
Really?
Very motivating, yeah.
Yeah, I just
talks about that magic hour of waking up at 5. New York Times bestselling book.
Listen, I still have that guy on my shoulder who says, "Sleep in." You know what I mean? You didn't get 8 hours or 7 hours. You only slept 5 hours last night. Sleep in another hour.
That's another great book. Is
shrug it off.
The 5-second rule. She talks about that.
Oh, yeah, to get out of bed.
Yeah, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I didn't read
She's
that.
amazing.
But I've heard that story. And
the alarm clock goes off. You count down 5, 4, 3, 2.
I'm gonna start doing that because I don't count down, but I have that in my head. It's like alarm clock went off. All right, get out. Put the feet on the ground and let's get up and let's start motivating and get moving and stuff like that. And I go right to the gym. And then once the blood starts going and everything like that.
You set the tone for your day.
Yeah, hour and a half later, I'm like, oh, this is 7 o'clock. It's time to go to the office. And then, but at night you're tired, but you've accomplished so much.
Right.
Give me a quick day in life of you. What time do you wake up?
I'm up at about 6:30.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Gym, run.
Yep. Always trying to do something. I'll go to that stuff? No, sauna. Not as much as I love the sauna. Love the sauna in the steam room. I'll take Bikram yoga. Okay. So I try to get up around 6:30. Definitely try to train in the morning to do something in the office by about 9 o'clock, only because I normally work late. And I have a pretty busy schedule during the day in terms of lunch meetings and meetings throughout the day. And then home at night to either take Bikram at night if I didn't work out in the morning, or sometimes I'll do 2 a days. Obviously trying to surf and play golf and play tennis and just stay active and stay busy. Our season, as you might imagine, November until April is really, really busy. So
is that the season? Say it again.
November until April.
Okay.
Is our season. Very, very busy.
How many concerts will there be?
We'll do about 10 concerts. We do 10 concerts per season with the children's concerts and other things, but then we have a whole bunch of special events. We have about 6 Young Friends events. When you total all of it, it's about 30 or 40 events within that April to November to April time period. So it's fast and furious.
Well, you'll have to tell us something to come see. Cause
anytime. You're my guest.
Yeah, but thank you very much. But
no, anytime.
We'll take the reference of when we should come.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, tell me something like you'll enjoy this more, you'll enjoy this less, whatever. But, we definitely love music.
Well, and even with the Brightline now.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you take it?
Haven't yet.
You should have
So,
taken
I mean,
it here.
and-
You know
and
the
I know-
station's right
Absolutely.
there. And it's right next to your house.
Transmodal, sure.
Yeah.
Transmodal development. I know all about it.
It's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
I take it to Miami.
Mhm. So
The station's right there. It's a block away.
So I worked for I worked for that company for a minute. So Fortress was the fund that built it, right?
Yeah.
And I worked for a broker real quick when I was like, oh, am I gonna be a commercial appraiser? Maybe not. Let me go work for a broker for a minute, kind of like your UBS kind of thing, right? But not so long. And I worked for a broker for a year as his analyst, and it was with that company, and they were building the Bright Line. It wasn't the Bright Line at the time. It was the whatever they called it before the Bright Line.
I forget what they called it.
Yeah, and that was the old Flagler company, and Fortress came in with the the institutional money and stuff like that. But that was fun. Yeah, the Bright Line is it's amazing, right? I hope that it gets to Orlando one day. I mean, it seems like
they're building the tracks.
I was
they're building them right now at Jupiter.
Yeah, because it was supposed to be on the old Flagler tracks. I was excited when Bronson went on to and
Virgin.
And then that COVID happened, and who knows what.
Are you seeing a lot of people use it to go down to Miami that you know of? Or are people reverse using it to come up here? I
don't look at those numbers, and I don't know how that works. I look at, we're always talking about where it's going to stop next because that's where people are developing. I mean, that was the play when they built it. It wasn't that it was a private train and try to move people. It was like, let's build these little mini cities around it. I mean, and that's what they're doing, because everyone can go from Palm Beach, Broward to Dade, right? Easily. But you can also live in a tower right there. So now you're just coming downstairs and you can get on the train. Or even they're building office towers beside it too. So you can live here and go. It's amazing. So I think it was more of a development play than actually a privatized train.
I would agree with that because the one here has all of the units that are in it as well. Where people can live. But I think it's phenomenal.
I think it's cool too.
Drive from here to Miami versus getting on the
How many
Bright
times
Line.
have you taken it?
I've taken it probably 7 or 8.
And I heard that
I've gone
the
to a Heat
prices
game.
dropped.
I've gone to South Beach. I've gone to Fort Lauderdale multiple times. I've gone to meet with donors to have dinner.
You liked it?
It's incredible. It's 35 minutes to Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, we'll do that.
And it's like an hour to Miami.
Yeah, when we come up here and we'll see a show.
Anytime.
We'll
take it. You're right here.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. What else, Dave? Family's doing well.
We're good. I'm
Father's
blessed.
good. Brother. Children are growing up. Doing great here. Your success. I applaud you, man.
Thank you.
I watch you. I follow you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for sitting down with
My
me.
pleasure.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
really
man.
appreciate it.
God bless you, dude.
And you too. Keep up the great work you're doing.
Thanks, man.
I follow you too. You're on the right trajectory.
Trying to do it.
Yeah, you
We're
are.
doing it.
Keep doing it.
Thank you for listening to my conversation with David McClymont. To support the podcast, please subscribe, like, comment, and share. I leave you with a question. Are you attracting the right people in your life? See you next time. David Maggard.